It's Tuesday morning. Good morning, everyone at home. Welcome to First Take. Carrie Champion, Skip Bayless, and Stephen A. Smith all in-house today. Gentlemen.
What's up?
How are you?
What's going on, Big Time?
Good to see you.
Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning, Stephen A. Good to have you here, hon.
Yes.
Coming up on the show today, Magic Johnson is here for an hour. 10:30, 11:30. Answering all questions.
I think Magic Johnson's trying to take our job.
You think so? He wants to be a third debater?
That's just my personal opinion.
Well, all right.
It's not going to happen.
I think he might be a little too busy.
It's not going to happen. Yeah, he might be, but you don't know Magic. He'll tack on another job.
Another job, just because he can. All right, so we'll talk about the Lakers, the return to glory, the NBA Finals, so on and so forth. All NBA questions being asked when Magic Johnson is here today. But first, to a more serious subject. Domestic violence charges against Greg Hardy have been dismissed because his accuser did not make herself available to help with the case. Hardy's appeal of the 2014 conviction was scheduled to begin on Monday morning. Hardy requested the jury trial on July 15th after a DA found him guilty of assaulting and threatening Nicole Holder, his ex-girlfriend. According to the DA, Hardy has reached a civil settlement with Holder and asked by ESPN whether the reported settlement would be used as an admission of guilt by the NFL for determining punishment. A league spokesman said, quote, "I can't answer that because I don't know. We need to review the matter." The Panthers, however, have released the following statement. "We are aware of the decision by the district attorney's office to dismiss charges against Greg Hardy. Greg remains on the commissioner's exempt list, and the NFL has advised us to allow it to complete its review under the personal conduct policy. There's no change in his status at this time." And that's what we're focusing on, Stephen A., his status at this time. What do you believe the NFL should do?
Automatically institute and exercise its rights under the new personal conduct policy and suspend him 6 games. Automatic. Because even though he only played 1 game last year, he was still paid his $13.1 million salary, Skip Bayless. And listen, we can sit there and debate until the cows come home. What can't be debated is that he was found guilty by a judge in Mecklenburg County of essentially assaulting a woman. You've got 60-day suspended sentence, 18 months probation on misdemeanor charges, and I'll get into that for a second. But he exercises right under North Carolina law. Yeah. You know, so as a result of that, you know, all of a sudden, you can get the case reheard, and as a result of that, he ended up on the commissioner's exempt list, where you weren't allowed to play, but you were still allowed to get your money.
Yeah.
You reached an agreement with this young lady. The district attorney didn't agree to anything with you. It wasn't like the case was pled, the charges were, diminished, ultimately dropped, or whatever the case may be, because you worked in concert with the district attorney's office and the law showed what it showed. Essentially, you have the district attorney essentially complaining on the record that the abused, refused to show up.
Yeah.
Refused to give testimony. She didn't make herself available. Therefore, it diminished our case. Well, if you're the NFL, I've already paid you $13.1 million. Okay? Even though you missed games, you still got paid. And then we listen to what it is. He's 6'4", he's 265 pounds, was found guilty of doing a lot of this stuff, tossing her onto a futon covered with rifles, threw her into a bathtub, flung her around, grabbed her by her hair from room to room, did all of this other stuff, reading it from here too, by the way. So all of this stuff that essentially has transpired, essentially, you just weren't allowed to play, but you still were allowed to get paid. Christine Brennan wrote an exceptional column in today's USA Today.
You're quoting from it.
I'm quoting from it right here. Plus, again, the articles that I'm reading online. We all know about the case because we discussed it earlier a few months ago. There's no way around this. If you are the NFL, considering the position that you placed yourself in to begin with the whole Ray Rice fiasco, combined with the fallout from that, which basically provoked you instituting this policy, which essentially acknowledges that regardless of what the law deems, you're allowed to look at the evidence yourself and make a decision based on the best interest of the league. To me, if you basically give out no punishment whatsoever, your policy means absolutely nothing. And obviously, this country, a nation filled with women, are going to be in an uproar, and rightfully so about it. I don't know how the NFL can get around this. You have to suspend him. First time, 6 games automatically. Next time, lifetime ban, that kind of thing. This falls under the guise of that policy, and I don't believe that the NFL has a choice.
I realize that's the guise of the new domestic violence policy. I'm looking for this commissioner to go farther, go beyond the 6 games. I would like to see at least 8. I wouldn't balk at 8 or 10 games. Obviously, this is the first test of the new domestic violence policy. And the spotlight and the pressure are now on Roger Goodell to listen to his new female advisors, then make his own decision to come down hard on Greg Hardy. If, in fact, he wants to send a zero-tolerance message, this will not be tolerated any longer, you got to go beyond just the 6 games that are for the first offense. And I realize that Greg Hardy missed all but 1 game last year. I'm not going to qualify that as time served because, as you point out, he got paid $770,000 per game missed. He got his full contract, $770,000, to be on the exempt list for the rest of last year. So I'm not going to qualify that as time served. I'm going to go back to the fact that he was convicted during the first trial, which is just a bench trial. And that judge believed his accuser and every word, I'm assuming, of her description of what he did to her. And for me, if you're going to believe this, and this judge certainly bought it, it is beyond Ray Rice. It is bruises from head to toe. It is being strangled while Greg Hardy is threatening to kill her. And at one point she told the judge, I just told him, go ahead and kill me. And then to be flung onto a couch that is filled with assault rifles and shotguns? Really? Well, to me, this is a little, as bad as Ray Rice was, this is a little beyond Ray Rice. So now that we know that, and now that we know that, unfortunately, to me, this is just my opinion, apparently and unfortunately, she has agreed to a civil settlement with Greg Hardy, so she refused to show up for the jury trial that under North Carolina law he was able to ask for. That was his appeal. I want a jury trial. So she did not show yesterday for the jury trial. And again, the DA said he's under the impression he has reliable evidence that she took a settlement from him, a civil settlement. Okay, given all that, I don't know why Roger Goodell should hesitate right now. They have had all these months to follow this very closely, to read the transcripts from the bench trial. I don't know what more needs to be done in the way of investigation here. I hope Roger Goodell will act quickly. 6 games would have to be, for me, a minimum. I would like to see 8, which would be half the year. 10 or 12 would not bother me one bit, because this is the test case, and you need to send a strong message. This will no longer be tolerated.
I vehemently disagree with you there. 6 games is 6 games. And the reason why I say 6 games is because that's the policy. If there was no policy specifying the amount of games, then I don't care if he got suspended the entire year next season.
Okay,
but you can't institute a policy, mandate that it's 6 games for a first-time offender,
okay,
and then a lifetime ban for a second-time offender, and then turn around and violate your own policy that you instituted by saying, well, in your case, we're going to put 8 games or 10 games or 12 games for a first-time offender. I'm simply saying, it's very, very important, because, see, Skip, what happens is that even though you may punish him more severely than the policy stipulates, what you're doing then is creating an entirely different problem, because you're circumventing your own policy, your own rules and regulations, which opens everything up for debate. And then with debate comes fighting, and with fighting comes appeals, and then the process gets delayed and all of this other stuff. Have hard and fast rules and follow it. If there were no lifetime ban for a second-time offender, I would get what you're saying. With the first-time offender, if there was no specification as to it being 6 games, I would get what you're saying. But with it being a specification of 6 games, combined with the fact that it's a lifetime ban if it ever happens again, to me, Just follow your policy.
Okay.
That way there's nothing to
Shouldn't
debate.
the commissioner have the leeway to evaluate each first offense as a separate entity
No.
and case?
Know why? You know why
I say yes.
But you want me to tell you why I
Wait,
say
wait,
no?
but time out, guys. I'm getting a point of order here for this discussion. The policy is written as at least 6 games.
Okay.
So it gives him the discretion to give as many as he'd like to.
Well, that's not the impression that the league gave. So I get where you're coming from. The word is based on the words that you just gave me. Fine. But when it first came out and the commissioner spoke about it, they said 6 games. And that's where the 6 games come from. Now,
Okay.
if the discretion of the commissioner allows for at least 6 games as you just specified, which the commissioner didn't emphasize, by the way, then that's fine.
Okay.
But I'm saying to you is that, again, if it's at least 6 games, you go with the 6 games. If he has the discretion to do it with no problems, no resistance, go for it.
Okay.
But if it's going to cause a fight and to the point where the Players Association can then turn around and appeal and whatever, then you're delaying the process of punishment, and then that opens up a whole can of worms and nothing really gets accomplished.
There are going to be some
Hard and
extreme
fast.
views here.
Sure.
Do you still have Christine up there?
Yes, I do.
Can you see her last line of her column?
The last line of a column. Then again, as you read Holder's words and think about Holder's words,
the accuser.
the girlfriend,
Yeah.
the accuser. Then again, as you read Holder's words and think about everything the NFL in this country have been through since the Ray Rice elevated video surfaced last September, don't you seriously have to wonder why Hardy should ever have the privilege of playing another down in the NFL?
Christine is suggesting he should
be
never
gone.
be gone. Okay,
He should be
so
gone.
that's the extreme.
Yes.
Right.
And I'm saying at least 8, and I wouldn't mind seeing 10 or 12 just to send that first big message.
Okay.
But that's one side of it. So I'm just saying. So we start with the 6
Right.
as the at least,
At the least.
and then where are we going to go to satisfy everyone here? What's going to happen?
So, Stephen A., let me ask you. Hardy is a free agent, March 10th. Hardy and Jason Pierre-Paul are expected to be the top 2 defensive ends on the market, March 10th. Do you see him playing again?
It depends on the uproar that follows. If this noise, if the Christine Brennans of the world come from all over the place, and they put pressure to bear down upon the NFL, I could see Hardy not getting picked up by anybody. But if this is, dare we say, just the latest in a laundry list of issues that the NFL has been plagued by over the years, and it just fades into oblivion because the games are what matters to Joe Public and Susie Public or Kerry Public, and that's it, then you know what? Somebody will pick him up because that's how America rolls. It's unfortunate in a lot of situations, but it's the absolute truth.
I would think no team would want to touch him at least for
Well, I get what you're saying, but the question that you asked me...
I'm just saying, that's just my take on it. I think no team would want to touch him for you because of what's happening.
They shouldn't want to touch him because of what happened.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, on far too many occasions in our society, what they pay attention to is the noise, not the reality of a particular incident per se. Because a lot of folks are going to look at it, and it depends on their need and the kind of fallout they'd have to experience in the event that they grabbed him. If they think it's minimal to nothing, they will grab Hardy.
You're right.
They will grab, they won't hesitate.
Ladies and gentlemen, we leave it there. Coming up next, speaking of football players and their future, we're talking about RG3. On social media, taking on his critics, what Skip and Stephen A. believe he's trying to say, or what it all means. We talk about it after the break. Stick around, everyone.